Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our September edition of our Pinal County Community College Governing Board meeting. Before we proceed to the pledge, we have one item of business that we need to take care of. We have a new board member. Probably most of you have already heard that, and we are going to do the swearing in at this time. So if Mr. David Odiorn could join me at the podium, we will take care of that business. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you'd raise your right arm to the square, please. Thank you. And repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David R. Odiorn,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of member of the governing board
of a member of the governing board
of Central Arizona College,
of Central Arizona College,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In our conversation earlier today, I asked him how he would like to be addressed, and he says that he responds to a lot of different names, but he is most commonly referred to as Dave, so we are going to recognize him as Dave. And welcome again to our governing board.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready to begin our agenda, starting with item number 2. We just did number 2. Starting with item number 3, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Christensen if she would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. Call to the public. No one has signed up to the call to the public, so we will proceed on the agenda to item 5 under action items. Consideration of the consent agenda. Each of the board members have had an opportunity to review the consent agenda items. Any item can be removed at the request of a board member. I would entertain the desires or the feelings, accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as written. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Those in favor of the motion of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. And we thank you for helping us do that. Turning the page to the next item, which is going to reports. We are going to hear now the report from the Central Arizona College President, Dr. Elliott.
Thank you, President Gibson. Good afternoon, faculty, staff, and guests. I have a few things I want to highlight for the board of importance. First of all, student enrollment this fall is slightly less than last fall, about 30 students when we look at the data. But a few campuses are up in headcount enrollment, and of particular interest, Aravaipa, significant increase in enrollment, and I think that can be contributed to the new welding program that was started this semester. And Signal Peak campus has an increased enrollment, in part due to the SUNT program, which has over 300 students enrolled, which is quite impressive. We've kicked off the employee giving campaign launched this month. Our goal is to hit 50% employee giving as part of our 50th year anniversary celebrations. So we're shooting for that target as well. And of particular interest, VP Watka just shared with me that our second interest to the Maricopa campus, it looks like we're going to be able to move ahead with that this year and hopefully have that open before January. I'm looking at him, hopefully, which is of particular importance because of the congestion that our students are experiencing with the school that is adjacent to us. So we're excited about that. Other than that, I don't have any other things to report. You do have a year in review in front of you that kind of recaps some things that have happened this past year, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott. Questions from members of the board? No questions. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I do have one, I think.
Okay.
I missed how much our enrollment was down this year. You said slightly, and
Head
maybe
count is about 30 students.
about 30 students. Okay. That seems to be within normal fluctuations, I would think. Next item is business affairs report. Mr. Watka.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Fellow governing board members, welcome new board member Dave, president, board secretary, and all colleagues and any guests here this afternoon. Two items on the agenda. First one is the monthly budget reports. You do have the month of July 2019, and I apologize once again that the wrong file was sent to you as your first packet that you received. It was quite confusing for all of us there. But this is the one for July 2019. So this is for the first month of the new fiscal year. The total district general fund expenditures are about 5.45% of the total budget compared to about 2.7 last July. And if you look at the numbers here, they're very difficult to look at a month, meaning July 19 to July of 18 for a number of factors. As you recall, the new finance system did not take into place until January of this year. And with, you recall last year, the first few months of the new fiscal year, we did not record everything in the month that it occurred. We were playing catch up, so we recorded things later on in particular months. So doing a July to July, or even in the future months when we do August to August and so forth, until we have a full year under our belt with the new system, then we'll be able to see more of an apples to apples comparison in terms of both expenditures and revenues. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. You have before you the general fund and also the auxiliary fund. Just another note on the financials. We are in the process now of starting and completing our annual audits. The first one being the June 30th of 18. The timeline given to us by the state auditors is by our Christmas break to have that completed, so in 3 months' time. And then the 6/30/19 audit to be completed by spring break, so March of 2020. We're behind 1 year on the audit due to the implementation of the new system, but those are timelines that we have worked out with the state auditor's office, and they're here on campus this afternoon, or at Signal Peak, I should say, and they'll be here for the next several weeks. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on the financials.
Thank you. Questions? No questions.
Okay, thank you. The second item is the amount awarded purchases of $20,000 and over. A handful here. The first one is a sole source. It is license fees for Blackboard platforms. Blackboard Incorporated, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, $189,931. That is to renew our annual license and support for Blackboard. The next one is professional services support for the new ERP. That is Campus Management Corporation, Boca Raton, Florida, $45,600. And that is to provide professional services in support of Nexus-related customizations and integrations. Next one, Sophos licensing fees. CCB Technologies, Racine, Wisconsin, $38,335. That is to renew our annual license. Next one, faculty computer upgrades. Dell Computers, Chicago, Illinois, $37,128.30. That is to purchase additional replacement computers for the district-wide. Cabling installation for high-risk switch replacement. Herb Fitzpatrick, Casa Grande, Arizona, $25,000. That is to contract for cabling for switch replacements for the district. Janitorial supplies, 2019-2020 fiscal year. Waxy sanitation supplies out of Mesa, Arizona, $27,500. That is to create an open purchase orders for janitorial supplies for fiscal year 20. Polycom device maintenance agreement. Solutions Video Conferencing Incorporated, Los Angeles, California, $26,712.40. That is to purchase software maintenance renewal for the district. Maricopa parking lot lights renovation, Electric Supply Incorporated, Phoenix, Arizona, $26,043.81. That is renovation work for the Maricopa parking lot, so our campus here, and that is to retrofit to LED lighting. Aerial work platform, Penn Center, Granger, Kansas City, Missouri, $25,748.80. That is to purchase a scissor lift for our Penn Center. Addition of notification detection system, Building E, Netzian Technologies Group, Tempe, Arizona, $25,367.67. And that is to upgrade the strobes and the horns to the fire alarm system in our E building at Signal Peak campus. And the last one, a single source, is a high-risk network switch replacement, Avid Consulting, Gilbert, Arizona, $25,000. And that is to contract for network and system consulting services for the district. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on these purchases.
Any questions? I see that we're spending frequently on updates to networks and software.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that we're feeling pretty comfortable that we are staying up to date and on the cutting edge.
Fairly comfortable. We still have a number of switches and cabling and so forth that do need replacement that are aged
see.
right now, but we do have a replacement cycle in place, a 5-year replacement cycle, and we're looking at all of that to get caught up in the next few years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the Guided Pathways Progress Report. Always anxious to hear how it's going. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governing Board members, Dr. Elliott, Mary Lou, colleagues, and guests. So last December, a number of us presented information to the board about guided pathways. And at that time, I briefly mentioned that there was a group of 15 people from academics and student services who had met 3 times during the past year to determine the initial areas of interest. And that's what I'm here today to share is a little update about those areas of interest. Can you hear me okay with the mic? Okay, all right. So since last December, the areas of interest have been revised multiple times based on feedback from divisions and departments, from advising, from students, and from leadership. We expanded from 8 areas of interest and to 9 areas of interest and changed some of the names to be more student-friendly. And those areas of interest are up there for you to see. Again, there hasn't been a lot of change, but we did add the 1 area and then change some of the names. And just as a reminder, those areas of interest are collections of broadly related programs and majors. Each area of interest has a set of courses, which are program specific, along with general education requirements. The areas of interest do not necessarily correspond to our divisions, departments, or organizational structure. We wanted to make the areas instead relevant to the career fields, related career fields and transfer disciplines and make it relevant for students, not our organizational structure. By using the areas of interest, schools help students enter that program of study, decide on a path or major focus, and that is a central tenet of guided pathways. And then this areas of interest help students build community, decide that path, and then stay on track for completion, for graduation. The areas of interest are what students would see up front when looking at the web page, as well as when enrolling at CAC. And as you can see up there on the screen, each area of interest is color-coded so that the items relate to respective areas of interest, so that on the website, the program maps, brochures, and other marketing materials, etc., can be tailored to the respective color for emphasis and easy recognition. So that is just the brief update on the areas of interest. I didn't know if you had any questions for me.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. Are you able to talk any about how many staff hours Guided Pathways is consuming, and is it mostly volunteer or is it mandated hours from staff?
So we have a wheel, which we showed last year. It was the redesign wheel, and there's a number of different areas that are working on the redesigns. So advising, mapping, intake, and so forth. And so each area has done things a little bit differently. And I know Andrew Clegg will talk a little bit more about that because a lot of that's falling under the Title V grant, which is supporting people with some monetary compensation. I do know that I'm actually excited to share with all of you, since the mapping is very similar or closely related to the areas of interest. We have been working since last February to work on the different maps, and faculty and people from around the college have met 11 different times, oftentimes on Fridays. Those Fridays people have been compensated for, but then there has been work during the work week and on people's personal time as well. And with those 11 different sessions, as of yesterday, we counted, we have completed 55 maps of programs and pathways. So it's the initial maps that are done, and there's still a lot of the coordination and integration to do, but we're pleased that we've got those 55 done that all fit in to one of those areas of interest.
If I might add, one of our goals was to have as many people at the college involved in Guided Pathways. So if you've been served on a team, please raise your hand. So as you can see, we've tried to spread the work, but clocking the man hours was probably something we should have done. We've been doing this work for a year and a half now. So anyway.
And I think Andrew has clocked some of it, anything that's under the Title V to some extent.
Thank you, Madam President. My second question actually was that do you feel like all the campuses are well represented in all the communities in part of the pathways?
Again, I know that the other redesign teams have really worked to do that, to be as inclusive as possible. For the mapping team, we have definitely had representation from all areas of the college and all campuses. We've had people from financial aid, from advising, from student services, different campuses, advisors, staff. So there really has been a great deal of variety. In the next President's Pencil, I'm hoping for the mapping team to actually provide a list of all the people that have contributed at least to one mapping session.
Other questions? Have there been any positive impacts that have been reported as we've been involved in this process? Have we done any good?
Yes. That is actually something that has really filled my bucket lately. And again, I'm speaking more for the mapping team. I know the other teams have been working very hard in their areas. But we just recently were sitting down and looking at how we were going to put together a sequence schedule for the people in the welding program, for students in the welding program. And we were looking at COM 259, and we were realizing that right now we have a prereq for that class, and it would prevent people from taking it at the time that they need to. So we were able to reach out to the COM faculty and ask them about changing that prereq. So there's been all kinds of situations like that where we've realized we have an opportunity to make some changes, to remove barriers, to make things easier for the students, to create a more seamless pathway for them. We have looked at this was an issue that came out of the mapping team, and we brought it to academic leadership and leadership in general, and then went back to the curriculum owners. But we were looking at removing the requirement where students had to take 2 social behavioral science courses with the same prefix. That is not something that AZ Transfer recommends or requires. It's not something that other area colleges do. It was just something CAC specific. And so we were able to say, if students want to take 2 social behavioral science classes with the same prefix, why should they not be able to do that? We can certainly encourage them to take, say, a history and a psychology course. But if they're really interested in history, why couldn't they take 2 history courses in order to meet the requirements to graduate? So again, we've always been going back to what would work for the students with the interest, what would be most helpful for them, and going back to the curriculum owners and checking to be sure that that works as well. So I think on another level, there has just really been a sense of people working together and talking and having conversations about their curriculum. The computer science folks had 5 computer science degrees, and they have now reduced it to 3 degrees. So there's not this overlap, and then that way the students are able to come into the program, and we can support those programs because there's actually enough of a cohort in those areas, and the 5 were just overlapping with one another. But now it's very clear, it's very succinct. There's 3 computer science degrees, and the students, can go forward feeling like, yeah, I've got a degree that is something that is going to be worthwhile. So those are just some of those senses of people really coming back to the mapping team and saying unsolicited that we weren't. It was very much a sense that they felt that looking at the curriculum had really made a difference for their area and for students in their programs.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions? It's been a long time coming, a lot of work gone into it by many different people. We're excited to hear that it's moving forward in a good way. Thank you so much for your report.
Thank you.
Next item is our monitoring reports. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Title V. My apologies.
That's okay. President Gibson, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, Team CAC. Very excited to be here. I think this will probably be my last address to the board under the Title V grant because we're going to have a new director. I'll talk about that in a second. But my name is Andrew Clegg, and I've had the pleasure of managing the Title V grant over the last year. Go ahead and hit the next slide, please. Just as a reminder, it was awarded to us on October 1st of 2018. So we are approaching the end of the 5th year of the grant. It was about 2.4 million plus change, so just a little under 500,000 per year. And the focus was on guided pathways, developmental education redesign, and advising redesign. Really, those last two pieces are rolled into guided pathways, but at the time that the grant was written, they were called out individually. So Karen had mentioned the wheel of the guided pathway redesign teams. This is it. I realize that my coloring is not very good, so I apologize for that. But these are the 8 teams that we've been working with over the last year. It really all started with the areas of interest, which Karen just described to you. Program mapping has been heavily going since February, I think. And there's a whole bunch of other components to this. So one of the teams is the advising team. Then we also have effective entry and essential student experience. And what we found is there's a lot of overlap between those 3 particular areas. So Jenny has done a good job pulling those teams together to start talking and fitting those pieces in there. But we also have news and celebrations, which I believe you heard from last month. They're more for promoting and providing outreach on the different activities that are going on. And then I can barely see my own writing over there. I missed one. Excellence in education. So I'm sorry. Okay, excellence in instruction. So that's a team that we had some folks that had to drop off, but we've reinstituted that team. We've got folks that are hitting the ground running on that. What we tried to do with all the teams was pull people from all across the campus. And to your question earlier to Karen, we do have quite a bit of people. I don't have quantified as to how many people are from each campus, but I can put that together for you and provide it at the next board meeting. But it's faculty, it's staff, it's a whole bunch of people that have been working together and crossing over the lines and helping each other out. So it's been very effective. So some of the things that have happened, we really officially launched on Development Day last year. We were lucky enough to have Davis Jenkins, who was one of the authors of the book that started the whole guided pathway movement. He was really impressed as to the plans that we were putting in place. He did say he wanted to come back out in February, and we were able to secure him for that. That would happen earlier this week, so we'll be seeing him again. But again, the committees have been meeting quite a bit since February to come together and to address the issues of their particular committees. And as Karen had mentioned, there's been a lot that has occurred on Fridays. And the Title V grant has allowed us to have the funding to actually pay for some of the faculty to come in on Fridays and do some of that work, not only for program mapping, but also for the developmental ed math redesign. The funding has also allowed us to participate in the Pathway 2.0 program. The college paid for that for the first couple years, but for the last year, we were able to pay for that. And so we've been able to go to institutions to get training. The last institution will be next week. So we're hosting a team of 7 people from the college to go and attend. So we're really excited about that. And again, just the teams have been very diverse. So thank you for asking that question. So I don't think I need to beat it around the bush anymore. So just a reminder of what the grant objectives are. So to increase the rate of credentials awarded, to increase the fall-to-fall rate of retention, to decrease the number of undeclared students, decrease the number of part-time students, and increase the transfer rate of Hispanic students. So if we do things right with guided pathways, then these should fall right into place. One thing we do have to remember, though, we're on CAC Pathway 1.0. There's going to be 2.0 and 3.0. So once we launch fully in fall of 2020 with our program mapping and some of the other activities that we're working on, we're going to have to review what we've done, revise it, and continue to change it to make sure it fits the needs of our students and our community. So there's a lot more work to come, and luckily we have 4 more years of the grant to help pay for that. And as I mentioned, there are some changes. So we will have a new director start September 23rd. Mary Kay, should we say the name? So Nicole Costales has been an advisor for many years. So she is going to be starting as our new director. We're also in the process of hiring a transfer specialist. This is our second round of interviews. The first round of candidates didn't work out, so we were hoping to have this in place earlier, but things happen and people move on to other positions. We've also hired 2 instructional specialists who have been focusing on developing or delivering math boot camps. Traditionally, we do our math boot camps only in the summer. The grant's allowing us to do boot camps throughout the year. So these boot camps are put into place to help students elevate where they are with respect to their math ability. So hopefully, after going through one of the math boot camps, they can place higher into another a higher level math. We've also, and I believe you're going to hear from the developmental education group next week, so I don't want to take too much of their thunder, but they are piloting this semester a new math sequence in their developmental math sequence, and one of the instructional specialists is working on that one as well. And we also have a secretary on our team, Amanda, who has been with the college for many years. So with that, questions, comments, complaints?
Any questions?
Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're ready for monitoring reports. Jenny, are you first?
Thank you. And here we are again. So President Gibson, Governing Board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests, welcome again. Today we are going to be focused on the sections 1.5 through 1.7. So there are 3 separate areas. One related to degrees and certificates awarded, our transfer rate to universities, and then Dr. Gilliland will focus on ABE and GED enrollment as well. So the first we'll see is our number of degrees and awards that have been received by our students, earned by our students throughout last year, so 2018-19 year. As we indicated in a previous meeting, we're starting to include our data that we have, even if we don't have the comparable data, just so we can see in more real time how our students are doing. So I think this graph speaks to the work that has been happening across the board, and I think really adds also to what Professor Enhedi mentioned earlier regarding the fact that so many people throughout the college are working together to really provide the services and education to our students to help them to succeed. So this has been a great increase for us, moving from 1,277 students earning certificates and degrees to 1,435 last year earning certificates and degrees.
Actually, Jenny, I just want to clarify. That's the number of degrees and certificates awarded, not students.
Oh, did I say that incorrectly? I apologize if I said that incorrectly. So it's the number awarded. There are some students who could potentially have earned multiple degrees and certificates. So I apologize if I misspoke there. All right. The next number that we're looking at is our transfer rate to universities. This number is very similar to what it was before. Our goal is 50%. 50% is our goal of the number of students who would transfer to the universities, and this year we have seen an increase, a 1% increase from last year, although at a small increase, although we certainly don't want to have a 25% or 24% transfer rate to our universities. It is certainly moving in the right direction, and I think many of the things that we'll discuss in just a moment are adding to that. So there's definitely work to do with getting our students to transfer to the university, but we're moving in a good direction. So the 2 things that I want to share, and some of them may be repetitive from other governing board meetings and monitoring reports that we've discussed, but I think it's still really important for us to share the many things that are happening across the district with so many people involved. And I can really echo both what Andrew said and what Karen said regarding the number of people who have really kind of wrapped their arms around the fact that we need to help our students to succeed, and have developed so many additional programs and removed so many barriers that we've placed in front of our students inadvertently over the years that we're now really able to remove. So the first 2 would be removal of a graduation fee, which we've had a fee for, I think, as long as the college has been around, up until last year. If students earn their degree, they earn their degree, and they get to walk across the stage and celebrate with their families. Also, the removal of the application deadline, which, having deadlines is so important, right? But in this case, if a student has earned the degree and has worked hard to earn it, we want to make sure that we can process them as they come in. So we will have a priority deadline, which means if you get in your application prior to this date or by this date, we can guarantee that you're going to have your name in the program and you'll be announced at graduation. But we will continue to evaluate degree applications all the time. There won't be a time where we say, sorry, you got to wait till next semester.
a complimentary cap and gown for each student graduating. This is something that our fabulous scholarship task force, which was a large group that came together and looked at our scholarships, was able to kind of shift the way that we're serving students and how we're spending money to be able to allow to have a cap and gown for students, which again was a barrier for some of our students to be able to have that celebration. Monthly communication with students from financial aid, student accounts, and registration. So there's been a targeted focus on ensuring that there's communication that's ongoing with our students. An increased number of stackable credentials. An online graduation application is available on the student portal as well as degree audit, and that's something that we're working on as well. We've discussed before assigned academic and financial advisors through Campus Nexus, and we'll see much more of that with guided pathways as well. Certificate or degree programs identified at admissions. We want when students walk in the door, and this fits hand in hand with guided pathways, being able to start their first day at CAC, being able to see the end in mind and where their career might be headed, or transferring to a university. We're starting lots with our transfer, especially with Title IX as Title V as well. Wrong title. Title V, with a transfer partner day in October. We've definitely seen a decline in the face-to-face advising and face-to-face communication that we've had with our university partners on campus. We did in the past see much more of a presence continuously. NAU has always been a great partner in serving on our campuses, but the other universities have had to make changes based on their own systems and have pulled back some of that face-to-face contact, which we believe has had an impact on our students. So we're looking now to take students to the university, have more transfer days where we can offer those types of services, just kind of changing the way that we're looking at things. Reduction in the number of certificates and degrees, and that's something maybe Mary Kay can talk about as well. The number of certificates and degrees offered, so the types of options that students have. And also, let's see, changes to our developmental math starting in the fall of 2019 as well. Some of the planned things that we have, these are the exciting things that are coming that we've been in discussion with for quite some time, would be milestone and finish line scholarships. We've talked about that before. Rather than just at the front end offering scholarships to our students, helping to offer scholarships to them as they achieve milestones along the way to help them to continue. And then also finish line scholarships when they're just close to the end, but there's some type of a barrier that's in front of them that we can say, hey, come back in, let us help you out and earn your degree. Improvement of admissions application in the student portal navigation is huge, and we're in so many conversations regarding what it should look like for a student when they first come to CAC. How many steps should it take? Should they be able to complete their admissions process in one visit to the college or online? Absolutely. So really looking at making changes there. An electronic graduation application. Electronic transcript request. And these are not just pipe dreams. These are things that we're determining processes and ways that we can actually achieve this soon. So we're excited about it. Exploration of reverse transfer programs for our students that leave just prior to graduating. Being able to say, okay, now you've been at the university, transfer those credits back, and we can award you your associate's degree based on what you've done since you left CAC. Increased collaboration with university partners and recruitment efforts to transfer students. Increase in 2+2 and 90/30 programs, and again, that Mary Kay might touch on those. Continued streaming of program and course offerings. The list keeps going on because this is such a huge thing for us. We know that the biggest thing we have to do for our students is help them to succeed and to really remove, like I said, some of the barriers that we've put in place. The hiring of a transfer advisor is huge for us through Title V. Additional workshops, transfer visits, lots of different things. Let's see. And then guided pathways as a whole. So that is what I have for those two. We've got lots of work ahead of us, but I think what's exciting is we seem to have the tools and the talented and excited people in place throughout the college, and we're working together to make these things happen. So it's exciting. Can't tell I'm excited about this at all, right? Boring job.
Good afternoon, President Gibson, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. And just continuing on with this presentation, I will address this last slide, our adult basic education, what was the general education degree. Now we call it the high school equivalency, which is really an important part of what we do as well at CAC. This really backs up prior to our success with certificates and degrees and transfer, and provides ongoing education for those members of our community who have not completed a high school degree and want to do that so that they can continue to improve their work opportunities, and we hope continue on to Central Arizona College, which is a piece of what we're helping them with as well. So on this slide, the board has set a target of, we're looking particularly at the enrollment in these the programs that train students to prepare to take their high school equivalency exams, and the board set a target of 700 students enrolled. Last year, we actually came up closer to that number at 680 students enrolled. This year, we dipped back down by almost 100 students. We're back down to 589 by the measures that we're using. You know, this sounds like a huge dip. It's probably within the realm of reasonable variation. We are doing everything we can to reach out and help students know about these programs, know about the accessibility, and to get them into them so that we can help them succeed. Some of the things that are linked to this particular outcome in terms of recent improvements and planned improvements that I think are really worth noting, and I'm just going to keep this fairly brief, but we're trying to reach out and provide more accessible opportunities for students. So we are actually increasing the available testing, adding additional locations, including here at this campus, the Maricopa campus, and the Santan campus, and we did not previously have testing there. So that's something we are planning to do. We're hoping to bring that on board fairly quickly. We have had a scholarship fund established because the cost of taking the test, the students are able to come and prepare to do the high school equivalency exam, but the test itself is actually rather pricey for our students. And so a scholarship fund has been established so that students can go ahead and take that test and succeed and move forward. And I think that that's really important, bringing that to a successful completion. And then in addition, I want to mention that we really don't stop with the success of enrolling and helping students complete those programs, but we are really encouraging them to go further. And we have a foundation scholarship account now that will actually help support students entering Central Arizona College as college students after they finish their high school equivalency. And I think that that's really exciting, and I think it shows our commitment to our students and our community and our commitment to these programs. They really are a part of what we do here. They're a significant part of what we do here at the college, and you know, we're very pleased by all of the successes they have. So we hope to get those enrollments up. We have a lot of good ideas. Mostly it's outreach and helping students know of the availability of these programs and maybe the availability of some of the additional financial supports that will help them not only enter the programs but complete the programs and move forward. And I think that really is an important piece of all of it. So I'm going to stop there with that piece. I wanted to add just a couple of other little things. Just as Dr. Cardenas had mentioned, I might be able to expand a little bit on a couple things, just a couple of small additions in our general efforts towards student success. With this particular outcome, this focuses on the high school equivalency, but it's also important to note that we provide training in English as a second language as a part of the adult basic education as well. That is not part of these outcome measures, but it is also an important part of the programming we offer here at Central Arizona College. And so I just want to make sure everyone knows that that's all wrapped in together, and you know, we get some amazing students coming through doing their English training and then again coming into Central Arizona College. The only other piece that I wanted to mention with regard to the portion that Dr. Cardenas presented is that we really are working very hard. We talk about reducing programs but expanding services, and that sounds a little bit contradictory. I just wanted to comment that what we're really trying to help students with is to clarify the programming we have, to eliminate redundancy and provide more cohesive programming across our district at all of the campuses. So, you know, we don't want to hurt ourselves in our own efforts by being overly redundant or having too many overlapping certificates and degrees where, you know, we have 3 students enrolled in one and 7 in another. We're trying to concentrate those efforts, make every class and every credit count, and really help our students get to that end goal. And I just want to say that this is a huge college-wide effort. I really feel that we have come together. I'm not a long-term member of the CAC community. I'm excited that I actually have been here long enough that I don't feel like quite such a newbie anymore. But just in my short tenure here, and since Dr. Elliott joined us, I feel that we've pulled together and really made our initiatives come together in an important way. I think Guided Pathways kinds of sums it up, but we're working across the college in all divisions to really try to make this a meaningful experience for students, to try to make their time and their dollars count, and to help them get into the best possible positions for their life work and potentially for transfer if that's the route they choose. So I just wanted to say we're pulling that all together. Paring down numbers of courses and programs is part of the goal, but it isn't the goal to eliminate choice. The goal is to consolidate that and clarify it so that students have a better opportunity. So I will stop there, and if you have any questions for either Dr. Cardenas or me, we'd be glad to answer.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Dr. Gilliland or for Dr. Cardenas? Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like to thank those who have helped put on this meeting today. Thank you for hosting us here. I'd like to call everyone's attention to the walls on either side of the room. They are rammed earth, and one of the questions that was asked very pointedly when we first talked about this building and the rammed earth technology as to whether or not it would hold up over time and use. We were assured as a board that it would, and it seems to be that that has turned out very well. Thank you, Chris, for your confidence in that. Appreciate it. And I'd like to ask Mr. Miller to make a comment, please.
Yes, Madam President, as you know, all of our campuses are our favorites. If I were to have a favorite, Maricopa would probably get. Since
You're
we're there,
prejudiced.
I think whenever Susie and I are out in town at the store, at the movies or whatever, there are always comments about how much community Maricopa campus is, and I think we owe that to Megan and her staff. They have programs at MUSD, the high school here. They work with the Chamber of Commerce and the other businesses, and they'll be staging for the Veterans Day Parade here coming up in almost 2 months. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you very much. We have reached the end of our agenda. Therefore, we will call this meeting adjourned. Our next meeting is October 15th at the Signal Peak campus. Thank you all for being here.